on the beat. I show love and gay love, I never got it back. Flames in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us. I done show love and gay love, I never got it back. Flames in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us. I done show love to folks, but they never showed it back. That's why I talk a lot of shit, and I never hold it back. I done fronted on some work, and they never paid it off. Had to catch them in the wind, had to break their ass off. Like, how to cut some people off, they was a waste of time. And you can do that on your clock, but you ain't wasting mine. Time is precious, I ain't trying to waste a minute of it. All that bullshit you want, dog, I've been above it. There's levels to this shit, and you still in beginner mode. Oh, you're hungry, wouldn't throw your ass a dinner roll. Wouldn't give your ass a drop of water in the desert. We ain't homies anymore, time's completely severed. Show love and gay love, I never got it back. Friends in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us. I done show love and gay love, I never got it back. Friends in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us.
See, I been focused on this money, I want rubber band hunters. Tell a bitch I want the bag, you keep receipts. If you ain't notice how I'm coming, that's for sure, it's for the money. Beef over bread, so I had to make it cheese. I'm taking cash, credit, debit, baby. And if you love me, we gon' keep that separate. Cause by my funds, I hate the president. Don't instigate a situation to get your ass whooped. I get love on them corners of the ab, I for sure jerk. Knock the bitch down the road, yeah, that ride took. The bitch nowhere fast, that's in my book. Know I'm scheming, see his eyes, identify, look. Fake friends, fake love, fake backwoods.
Show love and gay love, I never got it back. Friends in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us. I done show love and gay love, I never got it back. Friends in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us.
Could you imagine me gone, not answering my phone? What would it be like if I died this very moment? Couldn't see me in the flesh.
Red Conwood Music.
If I died this very moment, I'm just feeling like these days, hold my last breath.
What if I was to disappear within a quick blink and everybody weak with no tears while the kids sleep? What if I kick the bucket list with no check mark? My music pumping in the mist will probably be the best part. If it's a fresh start, I wonder how it is to go. My dreams have always showed me as I'm walking down an endless road. I hope the good I've done outweighs the bad times. Take a look at where I'm praying for a better afterlife. What if I had to pass the mic and just fade away? The words I was reciting when I was alive go to great embrace. Make no mistake, I plan to say I'll never call it quits. The pain I get from nipple bleeding every time I ball my fist. And all the glitz and the fame that they think I have, it makes me wonder if the people really gave a damn. If I blow tomorrow or I'm putting past his, rip the hollow suicidal how I took my last breath.
Could you imagine me gone, not answering my phone or answering a text? Couldn't see me in the flesh. What would it be like if I died this very moment? Would you just cry and cherish these moments? Try to hold on and let me rest in peace, or would you try to change anything or just let it be? Don't mean to ask questions, so please don't stress. I'm just feeling like these days, hold my last breath. I'm so lost in the days, with all these long days. I sit here and think, why the time plays, find myself in the brink. Let these thoughts sink, as these words slowly bring out the best of me. Sometimes I'm feeling like there's nothing even left of me, like I'm just here, but the world is renting me. My heart feels vacant, mind feels spacious, adjusting to the times, immune to all the changes. Damn, I know it's hard for you to understand where I've been to where I'm at. It's part of God's plan, it wasn't overnight. Expressing my experience, to y'all it's just words, to me it's very serious. Too many moments when nothing nothing felt right. Couldn't sleep, didn't eat. Too many lonely nights, didn't know how to cope with none of this pain. Waiting for the sun to shine, to drop all the rain. Could you imagine me gone, not answering my phone or answering a text? Couldn't see me in the flesh. What would it be like if I died this very moment? Would you just cry and cherish these moments? Would you try to hold on and let me rest in peace? Or would you try to change anything or just let it be? Don't mean to ask questions, so please don't stress. I'm just feeling like these days, hold my last breath.
I hope the good I've done overweighs the bad times. Make no mistake, I plan to say I'll never call it quits.
What would it be like if I got this very moment?
From the hollow suicidal, how I took my last breath. How I took my last breath. How I took my last breath. How would my family deal if I was no longer here? How would my mom feel? I took that walk off the tear. I got no problem facing issues, there's a lot of fear on the day-to-day, so what I'm saying y'all gotta hear. I got a spear poking in my chest cavity. Consider this my eulogy, I hope y'all ain't mad at me. With all the tragedies I've seen in 27 years, if I die today, I wanna know if heaven's really here. What if I sacrificed my life just to get a buzz and hung myself in the closet cause I didn't give a fuck? What if I jumped in front of a car doing 95 and cut my life short cause I felt it was my time to die? What if my pen dropped now and no one gave a shit? Would I be welcome in or am I getting 86? I got some questions on my mind while I'm at my best. Should I go? Should I stay? Breathe or take my last
Could you
breath?
imagine me gone, not answering my phone or answering a text? Couldn't see me in the flesh. What would it be like if I died this very moment? Would you just cry and cherish these moments? Would you try to hold on and let me rest in peace? Or would you try to change anything or just let it be? Don't mean to ask questions, so please don't stress. I'm just feeling like these days, hold my last breath.
All right, hey, what's up, guys? Sorry I'm a little bit late. Hopefully you guys got my audio. I tried to fix it. I found that if I reset my computer right before I start, everything kind of comes back and works. So sorry about last week, but this week we'll get right into it. I decided to talk about something I feel like I see a lot of people dealing with, which is a grieving process, which everybody deals with it. Everybody goes through it. Everybody does it their own way. There's no right or wrong way. There's just your way. Some of us have some unhealthy ways of dealing with things. That's obvious. But I think we need to identify. I think people need to realize that when they are grieving and when it's kind of justifiable or when it's adequate and when it's not, and identify some things that people probably didn't know go with grieving. I see a lot of it on posts and stuff. A lot of people going through some things right now, so some people might think it's coming at you, but it's just a accumulation of seeing things and seeing trends that I keep seeing pop up on people's profiles. So I put this together to try and show people. One of the main things, which you'll see a lot of comedic, references on here and quotes and stuff, it's because humor, in my opinion, is one of the best ways to deal with things. It makes things just easier to deal with, more tolerable, and I don't know, makes sense out of things to me. Easier, I don't know. And come to find out, that's because that's just kind of a male way of thinking. So we'll go over here and see what the types of grief are, which are, you got your normal grief, which is just, there's no general type of grief, but there's, you have your normal, it's just whatever is normal for you. You know what I mean? Like, you lose a family member, you mourn, you cry, you go to the services or whatnot, and you move on with your life. That's a normal grieving process, whatever that looks like for you. Chronic grief would be when that gets a little worse, when it starts to affect your daily routine. When it's the person that can't really get over it and they're still lingering that loss for long after. That's chronic. Delayed is when, it hits you later on and you don't even realize it. Like, people are like, man, that dude didn't, really worry about his dad dying. That's crazy. And then all of a sudden, months later, they're having a breakdown over a sandwich in a sandwich shop. It's usually related to that. They just won't tie directly in together usually. Complicated grief. It's complicated grief is, let me go back to my notes, when justifiable level of grief persists and interrupts daily life, especially for prolonged periods, usually associated with self-destructive behavior, deep guilt, and responsibility for things not in their control. Low self-esteem, violent outbursts, and radical life changes. Kind of sound familiar? So with that being said, those are the basic regular forms of grief that everybody feels. Doesn't matter what you did or where you're from, whatever. Everybody experiences that type of guilt or grief at some point for some reason. Disenfranchised grief, that's when the loss we feel is minimized by somebody else. That's like, you know, when you lose a friend from elementary school that nobody even knew you knew, but you used to be best friends with them and neighbors, and you lose them, people are going to tell you, like, get over it, it's nothing, you didn't really know the person, why are you tripping? Well, they're disenfranchising you from it. It's not you disenfranchising yourself from the death, it's other people, you know, minimizing you from it. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that lost a battle that they might not have been with that battle when they lost them, but, you know, they still felt it, you know what I mean? It still hit them. And that can really, it can really affect people, and being written off like that is hard. It's hard to deal with. You know, it makes you kind of have to deal with it alone. So those are the basic ones. And then these are the ones I wanted to focus on, though, is stuff that, like, collective grief. Collective grief is what we experienced, you know, when we were downrange. You know, it's when a group of people, like in Texas, that just had the pool party. You know, when they experience a tragedy like that, together, everybody in that area is going to experience it pretty much the same. You know, they're going to get the effects the same. They're going to interpret it the same. It's going to be very similar, and they're going to be able to relate in that bond of that experience. Same thing in combat. You know, your platoon will get it better than your company. That'll get it better than your battalion, because you're narrowing the field of experience, or, you know, what happened. So it's important to remember that collective grief is it's a big part of why when we leave the units and when we get out, people say no one understands us or no one gets us. You know, it's because the ones you feel like do, the ones that were with you at that point in time, they're gone now. You know, I mean, they get ripped from your life. It's not like a disaster where you might be able to still have your community there and you guys all can move forward together. For example, when I got back from Europe for my second tour, about 6 of us from a 60-man unit went to Fort Irwin because they were closing down Germany, and the rest of, like, I don't know, probably about 40, 50 other guys, they all went to Fort Knox together, and they all got to kind of decompress together and kind of grow through things together, whereas the couple of us that got kind of just outcasted, we just kind of had to suck it up, drive on, and deal with people that we didn't really know, and kind of had to push through it, which was, I'm sure, a different experience than being there with the guys that were with us. You know, that's where I like to say that, you know, I never felt like I was crazy or part of the crazy house until I left it. You know, when I PCS'd and left my unit and I wasn't around the guys that were like me, that's when it was like, okay, maybe there's something to this PTSD. Maybe the dentist ain't lying. So the next one is absent grief. Absent grief is in the absence of grief. You know, when people sit there and don't show any emotion, and it's like, it just doesn't seem like it's even registering to them that someone passed or something. And it's not, there's a difference between not seeing a reaction out of somebody and them not acknowledging it. You know, this would be like someone acting as if it never even happened, not even acknowledging the loss. You know, that's an absent grief, and that's very unhealthy. That gets very dangerous, and that's, you know, I know a lot of vets do that too. They'll sit there and they'll deny it happened, or they'll try to act like it didn't happen, and like I said, it doesn't have to be about a loss of an actual individual. It could be a loss of a title, a loss of a career, a loss of opportunity, any type of loss. You know, you can suffer these types of grief. I think abbreviated grief, it's another dangerous one. Let me check my notes real quick. Short-lived, possibly because something or someone filled the void, or could vary depending on the amount of anticipatory grief. All right, so that's why this one, abbreviated grief, is when the grief process seems really short, or, like, you know, for those that might just come out of a relationship and you're like, how did that other move on so fast? Like, how is it that I was so in love and they just cut out and they were just able to move on so quick? Well, people forget that, you know, love is the only socially accepted mental disorder in the world. Everybody experiences it the same. Everybody sees, like, everybody gets it, so everybody understands it. But they forget that it'll help you block out certain things and not see certain aspects of somebody simply because you're blinded by love. You know what I mean? And people, all these sayings, they'll use them and they won't really put thought to what they're even saying. And that's because of anticipatory grief, which is a huge one. That's why people will move on right after a divorce, because one party had already divorced in their head long ago. You know what I mean? One person made up their mind, they were unhappy, they were done. They started their grieving process, they started moving on, while the other person was naive to it and blind and gets caught off guard. I mean, honestly, that's usually the way it happens, one side or the other. And the other person's left thinking like, what was it? What'd I do? How come they moved on so quick and I'm still stuck? It's because they were planning on it. They were prepping for it. They went through those phases earlier. You know what I mean? And that gets people hung up a lot, gets them stuck up a lot. They like can't figure out why there was no grieving, you know. And sometimes there is no grieving. It just doesn't matter. It never mattered to them. That actually happens sometimes. And then there's secondary losses in grief. That happens a lot for vets, and it's a tough one, because you got, complicated grief is when multiple things happen at once, like a national disaster or a mass casualty, or a big event with lots of loss in it happens at once. That's complicated because there's different levels of stuff to grieve. Secondary losses in grief is like when you're going to a funeral and you find out one of your relatives got in a car accident on the way to that funeral. That's taking a big loss while you're in a loss, and it causes a big spiral usually. If there's been a lot of times I've seen people that they might take that first loss real well, and then that second one comes up, and it doesn't go so well. They lose it. I've seen guys that were doing good. They got out and they were doing good with their retirement stuff, and then they go in for a VA checkup and they tell them, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm sleeping a little better and stuff, doing all right. So they get their percentages lowered because they're doing better. So they get their ratings lowered, which lowers their income, which sends them into a spiral because they freak out. You know what I mean? They thought they were doing good until their stuff gets lowered. But what's up, guys? Lots of people with that. It's okay. I don't care if I bore people. I think it's something that needs to be said. And it's because, like I said, the grieving process, it shows itself in so many different ways. And I know when the stuff happened with my former platoon sergeant recently, and he got into a standoff and took his own life, it kind of caused me to reevaluate some things. He took his own life, which, if any of you are familiar with Fiddler's Green, the very end stanza or whatever ends with, to take your pistol and put it to your head and go on down to Fiddler's Green or whatever, take your own life in defiance of the enemy, basically, in defiance of getting overtook. Your last act is to take your own life or whatever. And you end up at this cavalryman's canteen where you drink with the rest of the cavalrymen. And it was getting used a lot for him, which was upsetting me because I felt like it wasn't correct. It wasn't being used in the right context, and that bothered me. And then that bothered me that it bothered me, So I had to think about it, and I realized that it was just the way I grieve. I don't do well with getting sad, so I get angry, and I find something to get angry at. So I had to kind of check myself and, and realize what was going on, because a lot of times people will lash out at people close to them because it's easier, or they'll try to start cleaning everything or start trying to rearrange stuff because it's easier way to gain control when you have no control. You know what I mean? It's a way to take back when you're feeling like just all out of it. But what's up, guys? See some more people just tuning in. I'm gonna go ahead and take a commercial break real quick, and be right back.
This flag isn't backwards, it's assaulting forward. Born was a nation of independence, who made the choice to make their lives and their families' lives better. Always moving forward, never retreating, never giving up. We carry on that tradition today. Fight on, break through, never quit. This flag isn't backwards, it's assaulting forward. We are grunt style, and this will defend.
You're listening to Veteran Radio Syndicate, brought to you by Alpha Outpost. Want the gift that keeps on giving every month that you actually want? Each month, you'll be receiving a box filled with gear that a true American patriot would want. Your first month, you'll be getting the everyday carry. It comes with a badass bag to hold all your gear. So head over to alphaoutpost.com today and grab America by the box.
Veterans a day commit suicide. 20 a day. Active Heroes, a 501c3 charity, is on a mission to end veteran suicide with peer mentors like you. For a $30 donation, you can become a trained and certified peer mentor to help heal local vets and their families. Join now and be listed on the Active Heroes resource map to connect with local veterans. Visit activeheroes.org to join and learn more.
Comes a time in a man's life that laughter becomes the best medicine. Visit the5b.com today and embrace the Bravo. Titty sprinkles.
Hey everyone, John Burke here. More and more these days we're seeing social justice warriors demand that we conform to their weak-minded way of thinking. Well, if you're like me, I get sick and tired of it. So at itagear.com, we are now running clothing that is so damn offensive, it'll send the little snowflakes running for their safe spaces and into the arms of their gender studies professors. So if you like practicing your First Amendment right by wearing offensive clothing, then ITA Gear is just what you're looking for. Let them burn flags, we can wear shirts that trigger them. Once again, that's itagear.com, veteran-owned and operated.
You're listening to Veteran Radio Syndicate on VetRS.com. The best in online radio.
All right, what's up? For those of you guys just tuning in, we've been talking about the grieving process and kind of the different levels there are, the different processes that there can be. There's no textbook way to grieve. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. There's just there's identifiers and there's common trends that you can identify that you might be falling into. And I feel like vets fall into several of them that probably they didn't even know about, which is like the collective grief and the let me go back over here to this other slide. It's the anticipatory grief. Anticipatory grief is big. People don't realize that you start grieving the second you know of a loss. You know, if you find out that, say, you know, a terminal diagnosis is given out, or a family member comes down with like, you know, Alzheimer's. When they start deteriorating, you start your anticipatory grief. You know, you start anticipating that loss. You start stressing it. You start worrying. You start thinking about what's going to happen when they're gone. You know what I mean? And that's your anticipatory grief. So that way, when they do pass, sometimes, you know, you might not grieve like you thought you would. And sometimes that causes people issues because they're like, why am I able to move on now when, you know, my father just passed? Well, if you were fighting cancer for 5 or 6 years, you know, you'd been dealing with that death that whole time. Like, some people it might weigh down and cause a lot of grief and stress, and some people it might kind of, I feel like for me it's more of a relief. You know, when my grandpa passed, I was relieved for him because he didn't have a good quality of life at that point. I felt like keeping him alive was selfish because people wanted to see him, and you couldn't really tell what he wanted. You know, he was done. You know, he outlived 2 wives. He raised like 16 kids or something like that. Like, he lived a full life. You know, he told me when my grandma was sick that he wanted to live a day past her just to make sure she was taken care of, and then he was done. And I believed him. So, I mean, it's like, it's different perspectives on things. It's different outlooks on things. And it's different ways of grieving, you know, and some people's way of grieving is looking at other people's ways and telling them they're wrong, you know, and getting mad about it. And, you know, some people's is going out of their way to try to help everybody. I mean, everybody's different, you know, so during times of turmoil or whatever, or loss during a family, you know, you got to kind of really step back and maybe be the one that's like, when everybody's trying to vent, be like, hey, you know, it's probably the way they deal with things, probably the way, that's all you really got to tell people usually, and they'll remember that, oh yeah, we all just took a loss, and kind of calm down, you know. And again, that could be any type of loss in life. It could be a loss of a job, loss of job title, a loss of opportunity, loss of relationship. You know, a lot of guys get it when they get out of the military, it's loss of identity. Because, I mean, how do you go from being a type A, you know, individual to being retired and sitting on a couch? It doesn't happen. It doesn't. Not without a fight anyways. So, and it's another thing to acknowledge too, is that we also grieve genderly, you know. there's certain things that society has deemed acceptable for men and acceptable for women. And when it comes to grieving, you know, they've classified it as two different ways. There's one they call intuitive grieving, which is generally classified as a female way of grieving. You know, it's more feelings, it's more direct, it's more dealing directly with the issue and exploring it and talking about it and moving through the pain. You know what I mean? Like building through it. Which is why they always want to visit and talk about awkward stuff that guys don't want to deal with. And then there's the instrument type of griever, who's more, that's what they consider the masculine way of grieving, which is more analytical, it's more in thought, and it's less discussion, it's less emotion, and it's more, we're more physical, we're more prone to do something. So if if we take a loss or something and it really hurts us, we tend to break things or break off relationships or you know, just get angry, and instead of expressing sadness, we express anger. And instead of like crying and, you know, talking to somebody, we just go break something. Or sometimes people will, like I said, you know, when they don't feel that control that they have, they will try to take control in other aspects of their life. So they'll start cleaning real good. They'll start like doing the project that they had planned for a long time that they just never got around to, because it gives them that sense of control, you know, that they're missing at that time. So it's important to realize that, you know what I mean? Like if you see someone that's like cleaning up all the time or something, or, you know, there's probably something on their mind. There's probably something bothering them. And you know, you never know. You know how to deal with those people. You know, some people you might need to talk to. And the thing with instrument grievers is they don't tend to talk. They don't like to talk. They're not going to tell you that there's problems. They're not going to really open up. So usually, like, the best way to try to deal with someone like that is analytically. You got to try to help them break down whatever might be bothering them or you think might be bothering them. Help them break it down into an equation or something, or like some way to make it relative to where it makes sense. You know, for example, like if a couple breaks up, you know, and you see one side's having an issue with it, you know, instead of just being like, these things happen, you know, just kind of maybe point out reasons why they weren't good together, or why there's an opportunity for new opportunities. You know, you got to give them a logical way of thinking about a way out of it. You know, you can't just tell them to get over it, because they're going to sit there and keep spinning over and over and over on it. And it could get toxic. So, I mean, it's not like you can't help these people, but it gets harder. Let me see. I just get depressed and cry it out. I don't talk. I both. No, I mean, see, and that's, you get depressed and you cry it out, and that's normal. That's a intuitive thing. Women, you know, crying cleanses, and it gives them, you know, this sense of renewing or whatever. And that's one of the reasons why I have a lot of humor on here, is that it's been found that humor actually releases the same chemicals and you know, physical releases that crying does. It's just a different manner, you know, and it's toxic. You know what I mean? If you start crying, everybody gets all sad around you, and it's not pleasant. You know, you start clowning around and joking, I don't care what's going on, people are gonna, you know, it gets more pleasant, it's contagious, you know. So you can choose to either cry, or you can try and find the bright side of it. You know, in the military, you know, looking back, I laugh at all the times we were stuck in the mud and had our track off, and, you know, just fucked beyond belief. You know, we didn't know how we were gonna get out of it. And it's funny to me now because we made it through it, but at the time it was the most miserable time in the world. You know what I mean? And it got to the point where it happened so frequently to where it just became, you know, we'd be in the suck, and it just got enjoy the suck, because it's gonna suck. You know what I mean? You already knew it, but you're gonna look back and laugh on it like the rest of the time. So I would just start trying to see the humor now instead of later. You know what I mean? Because we're gonna laugh about it anyways. You know, so why sit there and be all upset now, because in the future we're just gonna laugh anyways. I get angry if it even hits me. I hate it, but I'm used to it now. Well, see, and that's the thing, is that, like, people gotta remember, it's okay to get angry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to get, you know, I get irritated because I get labeled as a pissed off veteran, or, you know, that I'm all angry all the time, because I'm not a smiley person. I don't just walk around with a smile on my face. And it's like, I don't like that label, being a pissed off veteran. Like, why can't I just be a pissed off man? You know, and I ask myself every time I get mad, like, is this something that anybody be mad about? Is this a normal thing to be mad about, or am I just kind of a little over eccentric right now? Because sometimes I know I get a little worked up. And if it's something that I feel like, yeah, it's justified, it's you know, dude straight insulted me, then yeah, I'm gonna be mad, you know, just like any other man would be. But sometimes I gotta check myself and realize, like, okay, this person is just of less moral and doesn't really have the same thought process I have. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave them alone, because the only thing they're gonna understand is the thumping. You know what I mean? And it's not always the best thing either. But it's and I'm telling you, you know, people think, oh, you know, because I got my degree and everything, that like I figured things out and stuff. There's nothing more irritating than being able to identify your issues, put a label to them, still have no control over it, or you know, like my emotions still get the best of me, my you know my urges take over. Like I'm still human like everybody else, you know, and kind of knowing what it is and kind of being able to identify it so easily just makes it harder sometimes. It makes it more irritating, because when you can see it, name it, call it, and you still can't fix it, it's what do? You know, I just write it out. I have fun with it. Nothing else. What's up, Gina? She finally caught on. Claudia jumped on. Oh, probably shouldn't say that. Homes are getting wrecked. Anything else, guys? You guys' comments keep me going, man. It's when I run out of stuff to talk about, that's what helps me keep it moving. I got a call the other day too. Actually, looks like I should be out in the Chicago area for Grunt Fest 6 in October. So whoever's gonna be out in that way, I look forward to smoking one with you. Finally on lunch, man. It's 8:30 at night. It's 20:30, and you barely going on lunch. That's that staff duty hours. I can't do it. I'm about to go to bed right after this. It's past my bedtime. What's up, A-Rob? A little late to the show. It's good. You didn't miss that. There'll be a replay up on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. It streams live now to YouTube, and it saves it there. So if you like the channel, to give you updates there. And then I'm trying to save updated, you know, cleaned up versions of it without the dead airtime and stuff to make it easier for people to watch. But it gets bored. It's 11:35 here. Oh yeah, you over there. The good thing about coming back is you get the time travel, because like coming back from Germany, we'd leave on a Tuesday and get back on a Tuesday, like an hour before we left. Coming back. What about grief that's long term, like when you just hear the person's name or reflect on a memory, you break down and cry? I lost someone, and when I talk about her, it's instant tears. That would fall more under like prolonged grief. It just depends. Like that's a natural grief. It's gonna sit with you for a while. Some things will stay with you for life, but it's the effect of the grief on your life. Like if the mention of someone's name shuts you down and you're just done and you can't do anything again for like 2-3 days, you just hold up and you don't want to do anything, don't want to see anybody. That's when it's becoming a problem. That's when it's kind of like, all right, you might need to see somebody. You might need to get some shit to regulate that, you know. But just, you know, getting choked up or getting upset for a little bit over a memory of someone close to you, that's normal. That's healthy. That's just shows that you still have a soul. You know what I mean? It's the people that just kind of go cold and callous and don't have any remorse or any type of care in the world for you know, anything from the past or anything. Then that's the ones that you got to kind of worry about. Like, might have been a little too far. Germany was awesome. Yes, Germany was awesome. I had a blast in Germany. I got to see a lot of cool stuff. You know, when you're in Germany, you get to travel like it's states. You know, because everything over there is closer. I mean, the state of Texas is bigger than the country of Germany. So just to put it in perspective. So yeah, like Germany was awesome. We got to travel a lot, and I think it showed me a lot of different people and how they live and how different things can be. So it was definitely a culture shock and a wake up call, especially when you're like 19. But I would do it again. I loved it. But see, and that's the thing, is that sometimes when it doesn't phase you, it's because you already experienced your anticipatory grief. So the longer you know about something, the more you have time to prepare for it. So I mean, it's kind of like, you know, when you're really waiting on a big day at school or something, or you're really waiting on something and you're getting ready for it and you're preparing for it, and then it comes and it's like the day's over with and you're like, that was it, that's all that was. It's because you anticipated it so much, you worked yourself up for it so much, you played through it in your head so much that it's like you're done. You've processed it, you know, because people that get stuck on stuff, it's because their mind's having a hard time processing it. They're not allowing themselves to actually accept it. And you know, sometimes you just accept things. Sometimes things just make sense, and it's just like, yeah, that happened. Like, it was real. It happened. Yeah, and that's all you can do. You know, and that's healthy. That's okay, because it shouldn't just shut you down. It shouldn't shut your life down. That's when things are a problem. Is when you just become immobile and you're not feeling like, you know, people like will misuse bipolar disorder, just in diagnosis, stuff like that, like grossly say shit like that. But there are clinical guidelines for stuff, and you know, if I ever thought any of you guys were that far, I would definitely step up and say something. But uh, it takes a lot. And that's good. You know, for some people, that type of closure, it helps. For some people, they're too skeptic about it and it doesn't work. You know, talking about mediums and getting tarot card readings and stuff. Again, I personally, I don't believe in structured religion as we know it today. I think that mankind has taken spirituality out of religion and used it for taxation and to justify people staying in struggle. Um, but I do acknowledge there's something else out there. You know, I mean, there could be something to the cards and readings and stuff. There's a lot of people that get direct, like, you know, stuff from it, and there's some people that feel it's too general and it's too, anybody can kind of hit on stuff with it and kind of lead you. So I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. You know, you can't knock nothing. Yeah, I know what you mean, Gina. With my grandpa, when he was in the hospital late, you know, in his Alzheimer's, I didn't like seeing him like that. I could not stand going to see him. It wasn't the man I knew. It wasn't the proud man I knew. I didn't like seeing him afraid when he'd go into his episodes. Uh, so I stayed away. Uh, my daughter would go see him, and he would talk stuff to her. He'd cuss me out in Spanish, and I was the one he never forgot. So, like, he would constantly ask about me and talk shit because I wasn't there. And I got a couple calls saying that he was bad. He was bad. You know, I needed to see him. And then I remember one day I was just like, I got to see him. You know, I was like, I got a bunch of stuff to do today, but I was like, I got to see him. So I made a plan to do a couple things en route and then go see him. And as I continued to get ready, by the time I got out of the shower and got on my bike, it went from like 3 or 4 stops to see him to just going straight to see him. And he was the next town over, so I jumped on a bike, smashed up there. And I remember I walked in and he just kind of looked at me and he just smiled. You know, couldn't really speak no more. And he just smiled. He just kind of nodded his head, smiled. And we watched TV for a minute, and he passed, I think, later that day. But it was weird, the feeling I had going in there, because it was like I had to get there. And, you know, I felt guilty for not seeing him all that time, but just seeing him and him, you know, just let me know it was okay before he went, it did. It meant a lot. Yep. Hey, you know, when it comes to moving forward, hey, any motion is good motion. You know, slow motion is better than no motion. As long as you're still moving, you haven't lost. You only lose when you quit trying. You know what I mean? So just keep moving towards whatever closure you need. You know what I mean? You get there. It's when you just stop trying, you get stuck in it, and that's when it gets unhealthy. That's when you can't move forward anywhere, any aspect of life. But yeah, I think anticipatory grief is the one thing that a lot of people really need to look at and realize that you're grieving all the time. You know what I mean? That and people that are going through a lot of stuff, it compiles, it doesn't make it easier. And just because someone dealt with something 3 times already and they took it like cake, doesn't mean that fourth time is not going to be what, you know, sets them off. I mean, I've been with guys shoulder to shoulder in firefights before, and one day they were just sitting there rocking back and forth in their seat in the middle of a firefight and wouldn't even, pull a trigger, and these are dudes I know that were with it because they've done it plenty of times before with me. It's just that was always my biggest fear, was just hitting that point that where you're just like, enough's enough, and you just snap, because you never know when it's coming. It just kind of happens. That was always one of my biggest fears, was just locking up and just enough is enough. What up, Phil? I was just saying, couldn't go. But I don't know. And it's like, a lot of people will get criticized for the way that they grieve. And like I said, there's no wrong or right way. There's healthy and a little less healthier, because if you get stuck in it and you're not allowing yourself to move on, then you're hindering yourself, you're hurting yourself, you're kind of screwing up the loss of somebody else, because you're dishonoring them by allowing you to discredit their existence by downward spiraling yourself because of them. You're like, in their honor, you're destroying your life in their honor. Like, it makes no sense. And it's like when I got back and I realized that at one point I could be in a dead sleep and get told that there were guys lining rooftops shooting at guys that I didn't even know, and within 2 minutes me and my guys would be out of bed and in tanks moving in their direction, ready to go. And then we get back and you're gonna tell me that you can't go to a fucking mall because there's people there? Like, tell me what sense that makes. You know what I mean? That's just some pent up grief that they've never dealt with, that they're exhibiting that way. They're pawning it off on that because they don't want to deal with crowds that make them remember that mass bombing or whatever. Yeah, deal with it. You know what I mean? It happened. People just didn't realize things happen. That's all there is to it. Things happen. You got to deal with it and figure out a way to accept it, because you can't change it. If you can, then change it. You know what I mean? That's just you being lazy. But if there's nothing you can do about it, then you just got to find a way to accept it, even if it is just saying, that's up. I seen Brittany made a comment earlier saying about, you got told after your miscarriage just to suck it up, move on, and you can try again. I pretty much got told the same thing with combat when I got back. My ex-wife used to tell me all the time, you're back, it's over, get over it. It's done with, and I used to always get mad and be like, thanks, Dr. Phil, words of wisdom, like, how could I have lived without that? And it really can be that simple, you know what I mean? If you just accept things, like, if you just accept them for what they are. Things suck, things are great, that's life. Like, you can't have one aspect without the other. You can't have one spectrum, that just goes one way. You gotta have the good with the bad. You can't have anything without the other. I was talking to a kid today that's getting ready to join the Army, and his family is very big on input on what he is to do or whatever. And all I gotta say to that is, I get asked a lot of why I became a tanker. A dumbass tanker, because you got to be able to breathe on the ASVAB to get in, and it's about all you got to do to qualify to be a tanker. But I got one of the highest GT scores. I definitely could have done a lot of other things, but if I wanted to do those other things, I would have went to college for it. I would have went to college and I would have got compensated for it. I wanted to go to combat for one, to do things I couldn't do here, or at least not legally, and for two, if I was going to go to war, I wanted to go with armed down, like-minded motherfuckers. I want people like me that were going to be ready to go. I didn't want to get hit in a supply convoy with another guy with a magazine and everybody else has staplers. I wanted to be ready, if I was going to do it, I want to do it right. And too many people try to get into the military to get a job afterwards. It's not a trade school. It's not a midway, let's go to job placement corps. It's a lifestyle. It's a change phase. And don't get me wrong, we need somebody to bring us the bullets. It'd get too hard to go run back and get bullets and come back out to fight. But if you're going to do it, make sure you know why you're doing it. You know what I mean? Don't do it as a career advancement, because most places honestly won't take you after you've been a vet, because they got to retrain you, and that's harder than just training somebody. Believe it or not, breaking bad habits and training somebody to do something that might not be logical to them is way harder than teaching them how to just do something. Look at the Iraqi army. Watch them try to learn how to do jumping jacks. Jesus Christ. Paper pushing is not for everyone. No, it's not, but it's necessary. And you know, and some people that's their thing. You know, and great. You know, we need them people, but it's like know what you're doing and do it because you're gonna do it. Like my family got mad because I gave them less than 5 days notice that I was leaving the army, and that was right after Afghanistan it took off, and Iraq was just getting ready for shock and awe. So, yeah, I told them the day after Christmas that I was leaving just before New Year's, and by the time they grasped it, I was gone. Yeah. That's one thing. If you're gonna do something, do it. Don't wait around and just wait for everybody's input because they will talk you out of it some way. Yeah, my cousin Nia right there. She's about to go. We'll see. She's starting to look like she might just take off. I don't know. What's up, Tony? You know, I see a lot of people, you know, they want to take off the military and they think that it's going to fix their problems. You know what I mean? If you think they're running to the military is going to fix your problems, that's like a woman thinking that marriage is going to fix a dude. Not happening. You know what I mean? If you go in with the same mindset, you'll get into the same trouble. I'm an example of it. I had a waiver to get in. Guess what I got in trouble for? The same stuff they had waivers to get in for. So it's kind of an example of why they don't let you in for certain things. I just happen to balance it out with going the extreme on the other end too, and doing my job really well. But if you go in and you don't have the right mindset, I mean, you could be setting yourself up for more problems. That's why I don't really look too hard for a job because I feel like I'd be setting myself up for a lawsuit, you know what I mean, or possible jail time because I'm not very good at customer service anymore. I'm not very patient. My people skills are less than desirable, I guess. So instead of opening myself up to all this space and opportunity for these charges and lawsuits, I just would rather not work. Yep. Next is daily. You gotta pick a job still too. I'm telling you, you're gonna be quartermaster. It's alright though. You can give me some stuff because hey, quartermaster gets some good stuff. But I know anybody, if you guys ever seen Buffalo Soldiers, it's an older movie about the army in Germany. That was my unit. I sound perfect. Yeah, no, I'm a poster child for walking AA. Not. AA goes to meetings. They're quitters. Right? I mean, I'm not gonna just, you know. Hey, no problem. So, hey, that's what I try to do, bro. Fucking, I try to get it out there. If I see that people are struggling with something that it's on the tip of their tongue and they just can't put it to words. You know, I think that's a big part of soldiers' issues is that most of them are masculine and aren't the talking type, and I can see all the signs of it, but they're beating their head against the wall because they're not verbal. They don't know how to get it out other than just beating and breaking stuff. You know what I mean? I get it, but it gets old. It gets old replacing your stuff because at the end of the day, you got to get yourself new stuff anyways. Unless you're a jerk and you're breaking everybody else's stuff, and then that's just nobody like you. Oh, the insurance? Nah, man, that ain't all state. You in good hands over here. But yeah, no, there were some good quotes, and like I said, and humor they say is the absolute truth or whatever summed up in a brief sentence or whatever. Basically, you know, it's total truth in an instant's notice, and it's being able to relate with your audience. So, if you know, they say it's true genius if you can relate with a crowd and create humor because being able to make funny of something that people are so serious about. It offends some people, you know. Not everybody has the same type of humor, you know, and that's fine. But don't get mad at the people that are having fun. Don't get mad that they're having fun. You know, I feel like sometimes people are just mad at me because I'm having fun. And I'm in situations where I'm not supposed to be. You know, for example, when I checked in at the brig. Sergeant Preston can vouch for this one. I pressed the button and they were like, yeah, Gonzalez here, got a 6-month reservation. They're like, oh, funny guy, huh? Yep. I walked in and I kept smiling for my picture. And they were getting mad. They said, you can't smile for your picture. I said, why not? They said, nobody smiles for their idea. I said, well, nobody's here for 6 months. I said, but I am, so I'm smiling. Took it about 9 times, and finally they just left it, and I had a smiling ID card. They acted like I was going to get jumped for it or something, but dudes got mad. They hit me up about it. Like, why are you smiling in your picture? I said, because I got 6 months. They all said, yeah, I would be too. Like, they were in there for years. Most people in the brig were in there for, you know, sentences. I met dudes that were in there for 6 or 7 years already, pre-trial confinement. Like, they were still waiting to go to court, the trial. So, yeah, 6 months, I was smiling. Going back to work? All right, girl. Get back to AFIS. Let me know how the FRG groups are going. For you guys who don't know, A-Rod was a former soldier of mine that's now a dependent spouse. And, you know, he's got himself a soldier. It's not same-sex marriage, though, even though he does sit when he pees. Let's hear him talk stuff. And remember, he's from Boston, so he doesn't have any eyes. See, this is what happens when I get bored. Somebody gets picked on. You guys need big comments. That's about my time, so you know what, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take it out. This is Banks' new video off his new album Vibe, and a throwback with Last Breath from Panda. Appreciate it. I'll have this replay up soon and share it. I think it can help some people. All right.
YP on the beat. I show love and hate love, I never got it back. Flames in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us. I done show love and hate love, I never got it back. Flames in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us.
I done show love to folks, but they never showed it back. That's why I talk a lot of shit, and I never hold it back. I done fronted on some work, and they never paid it off. Had to catch them in the wind, had to break their ass off. Like, how to cut some people off, they was a waste of time. And you can do that on your clock, but you ain't wasting mine. Time is precious, I ain't trying to waste a minute of it. All that bullshit you want, dog, I've been above it. There's levels to this shit, and you still in beginner mode. Oh, you hungry, wouldn't throw your ass a dinner roll. Wouldn't give your ass a drop of water in the desert. We ain't homies anymore, ties completely severed.
Show love and hate love, I never got it back. Flames in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us. I done show love and hate love, I never got it back. Flames in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us.
See, I be focused on this money, I want rubber band hunters. Tell a bitch I want the bag, you keep receipts. If you ain't notice how I'm coming, that's the show, it's for the money. Beef over bread, so I had to make it cheese. I'm taking cash, credit, debit, baby. And if you love me, we gon' keep that separate. Cause about my funds, I hate the present. Don't instigate a situation to get your ass whooped. I get love on them corners of the ab, I for show jerk. Knock the bitch down the road, yeah, that ride took. The bitch nowhere fast, that's in my book. No, I'm scheming, see his eyes, identify, look. Fake friends, fake love, fake backwoods.
I show love and hate love, I never got it back. Flames in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us. I done show love and hate love, I never got it back. Flames in my face, but they talk behind my back. Fake love coming from these fake thugs. Kids getting money, but the motives why they hate us. Yeah.
imagine me gone, not answering my phone? What would it be like if I died this very moment? Couldn't see me in the flesh.
Red Conwood Music.
If I died this very moment, I'm just feeling like these days, hold my last breath.
What if I was to disappear within a quick blink and everybody weep with no tears while the kids sleep? What if I kick the bucket list with no check mark? My music bumping in the mist will probably be the best part. If it's a fresh start, I wonder how it is to go. My dreams have always showed me as I'm walking down an endless road. I hope the good I've done overweighs the bad times. Take a look at where I'm praying for a better afterlife. What if I had to pass the mic and just fade away? The words I was reciting when I was alive go to great embrace. Make no mistake, I plan to say I'll never call it quits. The pain I get from nipple bleeding every time I ball my fist. And all the glitz and the fame that they think I have, it makes me wonder if the people really gave a damn. If I blow tomorrow or I'm putting past tense, rip the hollow suicidal how I took my last breath.
Could you imagine me gone, not answering my phone or answering a text? Couldn't see me in the flesh. What would it be like if I died this very moment? Would you just cry and cherish these moments? Would you try to hold on and let me rest in peace? Or would you try to change anything or just let it be? Don't mean to ask questions, so please don't stress. I'm just feeling like these days, hold my last breath. I'm so lost in the days, with all these long days. I sit here and think, why the time plays, find myself in the brink. Let these thoughts think, as these words slowly bring out the best of me. Sometimes I'm feeling like there's nothing even left of me, like I'm just here, but the world is renting me. My heart feels vacant, mind feels spacious, adjusting to the times, immune to all the changes. Damn, I know it's hard for you to understand where I've been to where I'm at. It's part of God's plan, it wasn't overnight. Expressing my experience, to y'all it's just words, to me it's very serious. Too many moments when nothing felt right, couldn't sleep, didn't eat. Too many lonely nights, didn't know how to cope with none of this pain. Waiting for the sun to shine, to drop all the rain. Could you imagine me gone, not answering my phone or answering a text? Couldn't see me in the flesh. What would it be like if I died this very moment? Would you just cry and cherish these moments? Would you try to hold on and let me rest in peace? Or would you try to change anything or just let it be? Don't mean to ask questions, so please don't stress. I'm just feeling like these days, hold my last breath.
I hope the good I've done overweighs the bad times. Make no mistake, I plan to say I'll never call it quits.
What would it be like if I died this very moment?
Rip the hollow suicidal how I took my last breath. How I took my last breath. How I took my last breath. How would my family deal if I was no longer here? How would my mom feel? I took that walk off the tear. I got no problem facing issues, there's a lot of fear on the day-to-day, so what I'm saying y'all gotta hear. I got a spear poking in my chest cavity, consider this my eulogy, I hope y'all ain't mad at me. With all the tragedies I've seen in 27 years, if I die today I wanna know if heaven's really here. What if I sacrificed my life just to get a buzz and hug myself in the closet cause I didn't give a fuck? What if I jumped in front of a car doing 95 and cut my life short cause I felt it was my time to die? What if my pen dropped now and no one gave a shit? Would I be welcome in or am I getting 86? I got some questions on my mind while I'm at my best. Should I go, should I stay, breathe or take my last breath?
Could you imagine me gone, not answering my phone or answering a text? Couldn't see me in the flesh. What would it be like if I died this very moment? Would you just cry and cherish these moments? Would you try to hold on and let me rest in peace? Or would you try to change anything or just let it be? Don't mean to ask questions, so please don't stress.